Just a bad motherfucker behind me right here. I'm not pulling any punches. Just a bad mother. As long as they've been around, motorcycles have been a vehicle for self-expression. It's exactly why we wrench on bikes, chop them up, and make them our own. But there's more to it than that. It's the journeys and experiences that only motorcycles can provide. We're not just riding, we're riding our life stories, one unforgettable ride at a time. It's a life worth living and stories worth sharing. This bike looks like an RSD bike, 100%. You know, I first penned it and designed it, I was like, oh yeah, that's our stilo for sure. What makes an RSD bike an RSD bike? I think it's for sure taking the performance of the machine and elevating it. And I think right when you look at this bike, you go, oh, that thing's high performance for sure. 17-inch wheels, Dunlop Q5s, you know, front and back, dual disc brakes, radial mount calipers. I mean, we've always taken cruisers and turned them into sport bikes, more so, more or less. We've done the same thing with this bike. You know, that silhouette, that's an RSD silhouette. But the cool thing was how easy it was to make Scout fit that RSD mold. This bike is going to a guy named Josh Dunn. So if you don't know who Josh Dunn is, Josh Dunn, the drummer of 21 Pilots. 21 Pilots is a really super fun band.
Roland and I didn't have any conversations leading up to this, learning more about what he does and his craft and his creativity and the amount of time he has, you know, into it. And even though I don't know all the ins and outs of motorcycle stuff, I do love passion, and I love somebody who's kind of like brain is always spinning with that stuff. And so it was really cool to just kind of chat with him all day today.
What's going on?
How you doing?
I'm so good, man.
Josh.
Great to meet you, dude.
Great to meet you.
Yeah, for sure.
How you doing, Josh? Great to meet you, man.
Yeah, buddy.
Dude, this is sweet.
Yeah, thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I was excited when I heard we were gonna build you a bike, so.
So was I.
Yeah,
Like, what
stoked.
the heck?
I'm pretty excited to show you what we built. Like, I built the bike that I want.
Okay, great.
Like 100% it's a bike that I would personally own, so.
I love that.
I think it's something you probably appreciate, but I heard that you've ridden a few Indians before?
Yeah, I have an Indian now. I moved back to where I'm from, Columbus, Ohio, like 3.5 years ago. And on the flight, my wife was like, you could get a motorcycle in Ohio. And I was like, well, I never really asked, but cool. Like, it just kind of came out of nowhere. I was torn between a couple bikes, and then ultimately I was like, man, this Indian, I got the Scout Bobber.
Oh yeah.
This is the
cool.
one.
Yeah, it's a good bike.
Yeah.
And then I heard that you've ridden an FTR before as well.
Yeah.
The bike that you're gonna get is like basically
hybrid.
a
Really?
Scout
Yeah,
and an
it's like-
FTR smashed
Really?
together.
Yeah, it's a
my
hybrid.
God.
So it's cool that
Yeah.
you've ridden the FTR and you own the Scout.
Yeah.
So
The FTR was the
them
first,
together.
one of the first bikes I ever rode.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you've ridden both those bikes, so I think it'll make it so that this one's gonna be like fit you like a glove.
That's so awesome.
yeah, you'll get it.
can't wait.
You'll get it.
Yes.
Aaron worked his ass off putting this thing together for you.
Amazing, man.
So
We got some custom stuff going on.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you'll like
it's
it.
subtle, but it's right.
I can't wait to see this.
So pumped to show it to you. It's so weird that the first two bikes that Josh has ever ridden are an FTR and an Indian Scout. And we just happened to smash both of them together, and this is the bike that he gets.
I think, like I said, walking into that bike shop for the first time, I was pretty much a blank canvas in terms of like, what's my style? What do I like? What do I didn't know much about motorcycles. So I walked around, looked at everything, and kind of narrowed it down to 2 bikes, bobber style bikes. Ultimately, I was just like, it's gotta be the Indian Scout. So that's the one that I went with, and that kind of began the journey.
You know, I mean, some bikes, you put them together in the shop and you go, that's a great looking bike, you know? When it gets on the road, you're like, I like that thing. This thing came together in the shop and I was like, that thing just looks proper. It looks super fun to ride. You know, it has that feel to it. And that's like something that's hard to describe or give to somebody. or even to be like, how do you design a bike that makes you feel like a badass? You know, and it's like, well, I think that's the formula right there.
Yeah. That's not a bad. Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, buddy.
This thing's perfect. Colors are perfect.
Which album was it? You did the yellow stripe? Trench.
Yeah.
This design was done before I knew you were getting the bike.
Really?
Yes.
It's rowdy.
Yeah.
It is rowdy.
It's
definitely
pretty
rowdy.
open. It's good.
I love that. It's got little Sylvester back
Little
here.
Sylvester back there.
I love that.
This bike was inspired by a guy named Ed Kretz. Ed was a racer, like an incredible racer, but we wanted to build a street bike, so rather than just like repop a flat tracker, which we built a lot of flat trackers in our time, so it was more like, well, okay, what would Ed build today? He'd build a rowdy, you know, for the street, what would he build? Like build a rowdy race bike. So this is like
Wow.
a Scout FTR smashed together, taking that race inspiration, bringing it in, but that was on Ed's business card.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Cool
with,
little-
a, with,
That's
a,
so cool.
with a quote that said, take your silly ass problems down the street. And it was like Sylvester, but we don't. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
I'd love to.
Fire it
let's-
up.
Fire
let's
the
listen
buttons right there on the side. Just press
right.
that guy.
There you go. Woo! But give it a couple reps.
That's amazing.
It's a ripper, dude. I gotta say, like, I designed a few bikes, and this was the one that immediately popped out and was like, that's the one we're building right away.
You know, I think Ed Kretz, if he was around today, this bike would probably scare him. But him at his prime, Ed Kretz and Roland Sands going head to head, that would be pretty fun.
This bike to me represents that like high performance feel, that like wanting to build something super fun and rideable, you know, that you're just gonna be able to enjoy and go out and thrash really hard, you know, and the little Sylvester, the cat underneath the tail section, that's our dedication to Ed. It's got our wheels on it, so we have a brand new forged race wheel that we're using on our FTR road race bikes that we put on this bike as well.
You can obviously see all the parts to adapt the FTR front fork, triple clamp, and everything to that neck. How to modify the front fairing piece to hook to these forks. It's stock foot control brackets modified. So everything was a little bit of this and a little bit of that. The exhaust system's all custom fabricated. The motor was already kind of set up for me to put that FTR swing arm on there. So I realistically just tapped it out, ran the bolts through, and I had new pivot points for that. And then for the tail section, it was originally designed off of kind of our flat track tail sections that we used to sell for the Scouts. We just reamped it, built these sides for it, an undertail kind of tire hugger piece. Did a couple little bit of mods and then sent it off to paint. And then when everything came back, we got a custom saddleman seat made for it. Those guys knocked it out in, I think, a day and a half.
I think what's amazing about it is the colors, you know, kind of like perfectly lines up with our band's album, Trench. The way that this thing looks, I mean, it's perfect. This whole thing makes sense, and I think that my intuition was right, that, you know, the brand and the people behind Indian motorcycles is just a cool group of people.
Always cool to watch a bike go down the road when you're on a bike as well as you get close. And it just had this like presence about it that just, it said what we wanted to say with this bike. And I hope it's really taking Scout and just taking it to that next little level. It checks so many boxes for me as a rider. Attitude, aesthetic, performance, it's peppy, it's loud.
The reason why I'm building bikes is to excite other people. And he came in and his jaw dropped and he was just like, he paused for a second, speechless, you know? So That's when you know you got him, and he's excited about it. And he was stoked.
To actually give him the bike and to hang out with him all day, we definitely jibed on the creative front, and music and art and building motorcycles and design, they all really stem from the same place. It's this need to create and this need to build what's in your heart and take what's in your heart and get it out to the world. I share that passion with a lot of people, and Josh is like heart and soul, that's what he's about. So it's really special.